My wife wanted a divorce after getting fits and she thought she deserved better. But her decision backfired right away. I, 38 EM, just a regular guy working as an IT tech for a local company, never imagined the day my wife would walk into the kitchen and casually announce she was done with our marriage. We'd been together for almost 10 years, married for 7. We got along well enough, routine dinners, shared chores, the usual ups and downs. But a few months ago, something changed. My wife joined a fancy new gym downtown, embracing a strict diet and personal trainer sessions. At first, I supported her wholeheartedly, proud that she found motivation to improve her health. She lost weight, toned her muscles, started flaunting designer clothes. But with each pound shed, her attitude shifted from cooperative partner to smug critic. She'd throw sly comments like, "I could have done so much better if I'd only focused on myself earlier." Or, not everyone settles so young. I tried not to read too much into it, but tension built. She'd criticize my appearance, my job, even the way I did laundry. One morning, sipping her green smoothie, she said, "I'm not happy. I think I need to explore other options." I stood there, stunned. She spelled it out. "I'm filing for divorce." I asked why. She shrugged. "I've outgrown this marriage. Look at me now. I have a whole world of opportunities, and I'm stuck with you." The entitlement was shocking. She acted like our years together were a mere stepping stone toward a better deal. I felt anger, hurt, and disbelief swirling inside me. But I kept calm. "If that's what you want," I said quietly, "then do what you must." Later that week, I got official notice from her lawyer. She wanted a quick divorce. I consulted a lawyer myself. He explained the basics. In our no-fault state, she could just walk away. But she was asking for a generous settlement, more than her fair share. She wanted the house, a chunk of my savings, and spousal support, even though she worked full-time and earned a decent salary. Pure entitlement. I refused. My lawyer said, "We can negotiate, but brace yourself. She's clearly trying to leverage her new confidence to squeeze you dry." I nodded grimly. That's when I decided I wouldn't just roll over. I'd fight back, calmly and methodically. If she thought her newfound attractiveness gave her the right to discard me and profit, she'd learn the hard way that I wasn't so easily beaten. We'd entered mediation. She showed up wearing a sleek dress, tossing her newly styled hair, making snide remarks about how I let myself go. She hinted I never tried to improve myself, as if that justified her dumping me. I kept my composure, answered questions politely, and refused her outrageous demands. Mediation ended abruptly, with no agreement. She left furious, muttering that she'd get the judge on her side. In private, I began gathering evidence, bank statements, proof of her financial independence, text messages where she bragged to a friend about upgrading her life. If she wanted a fight, I'd give her one. I wouldn't be her doormat. A few weeks passed, and we found ourselves in a pre-trial settlement conference. Her lawyer argued she deserved extra support because I'd held her back while she invested time in getting in shape. Ridiculous. She had a stable job, no children to care for, and she chose to spend time at the gym. I never stopped her. I pointed this out to my lawyer, who smirked. "Don't worry, a judge will see through that." Meanwhile, my wife's behavior grew more entitled. She stopped by the house, still sharing property until settlement, to pick up some belongings and left snarky notes about how I should start hitting the gym, or maybe find a better job. I ignored these provocations, but I documented everything. My lawyer advised that showing her harassment and belittling behavior could influence the judge's perception of her credibility. As trial approached, I learned she'd been dating a co-worker from her gym circle, a smooth-talking guy who apparently adored her new look. She made no secret of it, parading him at local restaurants where mutual acquaintances could see. Word got back to me. Instead of feeling jealous, I felt strangely resolved. Let her enjoy the spotlight. I focused on my strategy. My lawyer filed a motion to ensure fair division of assets based on our contributions and current incomes. We highlighted that she earned almost the same as me now, and in some months, even more due to her side consulting work. We exposed how she'd suddenly adopted a narrative that I was lazy and unambitious. Yet we had old messages and emails where she praised my stability and support. These contradictions would matter in court. She tried dirty tricks too. One morning I got a call from my credit card company alerting me to suspicious charges. She'd tried to use a joint credit line we never used regularly. It was still in both names. My mistake for not canceling it earlier. She'd booked a luxury spa weekend. I disputed the charge and reported it to my lawyer. This showed her willingness to exploit shared finances, even as we were divorcing. In our state, the judge looks at marital assets acquired during the marriage. Most of our wealth was in a modest house and some savings. She demanded the house, claiming she deserved a nice place. I offered a buyout option. If she wanted the house, pay me half its equity. She balked, said I should just give it to her because she needed to maintain her new lifestyle. Entitlement again. As court day neared, my lawyer and I had a plan. Expose her contradictory claims, show she was fully capable of supporting herself, and highlight her attempts at financial manipulation. We also gathered character witnesses, friends who knew I'd been supportive while she reinvented herself. When asked, they confirmed I never hindered her growth. This would counter her claim that I held her back. I felt a cold determination settle in. I once loved her dearly, but the person standing before me now seemed like a stranger. If she thought good looks and a better figure gave her permission to crush me under her heel, she'd discover that the legal system wouldn't indulge her fantasies. Court day arrived. We sat on opposite sides, our lawyers whispering strategies. My wife wore a fitted suit, chin raised, confident she could charm the room. I wore something simple and neat, focusing on facts, not theatrics. The judge entered. We rose, and proceedings began. Her lawyer started with a sob story, how she'd grown as a person, realized her marriage was stifling, and now needed compensation to move forward. He painted me as complacent, unwilling to meet her new standards. My lawyer patiently waited, then began dismantling their argument. He presented financial documents showing her stable income, her lavish spending spree on the joint credit line, and her mocking notes. I watched her face as each piece of evidence fell like a hammer. The judge's eyes narrowed at the credit card stunt. My lawyer then questioned her fitness claims. Did he ever stop you from going to the gym? She admitted no. Did he ever prevent you from advancing your career? Again, no. Each answer chipped away at her narrative of victimhood. We introduced text messages from her to her friend. I'm finally hot enough to get a real catch. Gonna dump him and upgrade. The friend's reply. Careful. He might not go down without a fight. The courtroom fell silent as the judge read these messages. My wife squirmed, realizing the mask of innocence was slipping. Under cross-examination, she got defensive. She tried to justify her words. I was venting. I didn't mean it literally. The judge seemed unimpressed. My lawyer emphasized that these messages showed her mindset, treating the divorce as a transaction to move on to a better deal, not as a mutual breakup. When it came to dividing assets, her demands seemed outrageous now. The judge questioned why she needed so much support if she was so independent and successful. She stammered about wanting to maintain a certain quality of life. The judge reminded her that divorce in our state aims for fairness, not luxury at the other spouse's expense. Then came a twist I hadn't expected. The man she'd been dating? He submitted a sworn statement through his lawyer that they discussed marriage down the line. This wasn't required, but my lawyer discovered he had a financial motive. He assumed she'd secure big assets from me, possibly to fund their future together. My lawyer presented this statement, showing that she'd effectively planned to profit from our divorce and move on swiftly. The judge looked visibly irritated with her. She tried to claim this was all a misunderstanding, that she never intended to remarry so soon. But the damage was done. Her credibility was shredded. When the judge delivered the ruling, it was surprisingly firm. The house would be split equitably. No spousal support awarded, given both our similar incomes. She'd owe me reimbursement for the contested credit card charges. The judge admonished her for her entitled attitude, noting that her attempt to paint herself as a victim backfired due to her own messages. Outside the courtroom, she approached me with tears in her eyes. "I never thought it would end like this," she whispered. "Gone was the arrogance, replaced by regret. I made a mistake. I was caught up in my new lifestyle. We can still talk, right? Maybe we don't have to go through with all this." I looked at her calmly. "You filed for divorce. You said you could do better. Now the judge made it clear you won't profit from this." I paused, letting my words sink in. "I gave you loyalty and respect. You threw it away." She tried to reach for my hand, but I stepped back. "What's done is done," she pleaded. "I'll drop the divorce. We can work on things." I shook my head. "I'm not interested. You showed me who you are when you thought you were on top." Her face crumpled. She now realized how her entitled gambit failed. No sweet words or apologies would undo the damage. I nodded to my lawyer, who stood nearby, signaling that it was time to finalize the paperwork and move on. Over the next few weeks, we completed the formalities. She moved her belongings out of the house, which I decided to sell anyway. I'd get half the equity, enough to start fresh someplace else. The relationship ended with her gaining nothing extra, just the bitter memory of how she overplayed her hand. I didn't celebrate or gloat publicly. I simply moved forward with my life, free from her toxic games. A few mutual friends commented on her regret. She complained to them that she made a rash decision, that she shouldn't have tried to squeeze me dry. But none of that mattered. The court order stood, and I had no desire to reconcile. She'd face the consequences of her arrogance. Word got around that her new boyfriend vanished once he realized she wasn't bringing in a windfall. She ended up alone, minus the marital perks she'd once enjoyed. In the end, I learned that not all transformations are positive. She improved her physique, but lost her moral compass. She saw me as disposable, a stepping stone. Instead, I stood my ground, refused to be exploited, and came out with my dignity intact. If she thought she'd regret leaving only if the money wasn't good enough, well, she got what she deserved. Actions have consequences. With my share of the equity, I'm looking forward to a quieter place, maybe a smaller home, closer to the city. I still do my job, still enjoy simple hobbies. I'm not bitter, just wiser. She wanted to upgrade at my expense, and ended up downgrading herself into a pit of regret.